Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 17 based on novel. So let's start. An unusually intense feeling suddenly began to spread after the roar from the Tao sect disciples resounded over the rocky terrain. Countless pairs of eyes from the surroundings gathered on these Tao sect disciples. Their faces did not contain even the slightest fear, even though they were about to face Yuan Gate. Instead, there was a concentrated craziness. Under this craziness surged a hatred that was difficult to conceal. Yuan Kang looked at the spirited Tao sect disciples in the distance. The corners of his mouth lifted into a mocking smile. Soon after, he waved his hand in an indifferent manner. "Do it." Bang! His voice had just faded when several majestic Yuan power fluctuation began to erupt from the black mass of Yuan Gate disciples behind him. Gazes that contained unfriendliness locked onto their front one by one. The 6 great spirit generals of Yuan Gate were the first to rush forward from behind Yuan Kang. Behind them, the Yuan Gate disciples closely followed like floodwater. Charge! Qing Yi's eyes were red as he watched the floodwater-like Yuan Gate disciples surging forward, as a deep roar emerged from his throat. In the next moment, his body had already taken the lead to charge forward. Boom! The hostile atmosphere of the place shattered following the charge from the red-eyed disciples from both sides. Thick murderous intent and sounds of fighting rose towards the sky. The countless surrounding gazes contained some seriousness and shock as they watched the 2 torrents that screamed forward. In the next moment, the torrents collided with a bang before their eyes. Bang! Monstrous killing aura spread upon their collision. After which, vast and mighty Yuan power wildly unfurled. Numerous powerful martial arts were unleashed in an instant. Finally, they ruthlessly collided against the enemies in front. There was no longer any mercy at this moment. All their attacks sought blood. The Yuan Kang trio watched the torrents collide together with cold and indifferent faces. After which, they stepped on the air and slowly walked forward. The torrent automatically spread apart before them. Huff! Chen Gui, Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang stared at the Yuan Kang trio from afar. They also inhaled a deep breath. Soon after, their bodies moved, transforming into rays of light as they rushed out. "You deal with Chen Gui? There should be no problem, right? Currently, many people think that you cannot handle him." Ling Zhen smiled teasingly at Yuan Kang and said, "There will no longer be anyone who believes such things in future." Yuan Kang indifferently replied, "Leave Wang Yang to me. This time around, I will not allow him to escape." Lei Qian sinisterly looked at Wang Yang and said, "In that case, I will deal with Ying Xiaoxiao. It is unfortunate that such a beauty would have to be destroyed. Truly a regretful matter." Ling Zhen fanned the foldable fan in his hand and said with a smirk, "Stop uttering nonsense. Attack and finish them off quickly." Yuan Kang frowned slightly and lightly shouted. His body shot out, transforming into a ray of light that blocked Chen Gui. Next, Ling Zhen and Lei Qian moved at the same time and appeared in front of Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang respectively. "Wang Yang, in a moment I will see if you still have the face to act arrogantly before me." Lei Qian stood in Wang Yang's way. The savage smile on his face grew increasingly wider as he mocked. Wang Yang's eyes were dark and cold. His hand slowly gripped the heavy black sword tightly. After which, his body suddenly rushed out. An afterimage appeared, containing a sharp evil sword aura as it pierced towards Lei Qian's throat at lightning speed. Humph! Lei Qian let out a cold snort when he saw this. He clenched his hand and a silver lightning blade appeared. He did not dodge Wang Yang's attack. Instead, he took a step forward and furiously threw a blade glow. Clang! A clear metallic sound suddenly unfurled in the air along with sparks and a wild wind. 2 figures were instantly engaged in a life-and-death battle. Ha ha, such anxiousness. Ling Zhen watched the 2 individuals who unleashed lethal attacks the moment they met, and could not help but smile. Soon after, he grinned and gazed at Ying Xiaoxiao, before speaking in a polite and refined manner, I am Lingshan. I have long heard of the name of the great senior sister of the Tao sect Sky Hall, Ying Xiao Xiao. Today? Swoosh! However, he had yet to finish his sentence when Ying Xiao Xiao had already rushed forward with a 3-foot sword in her hand. The pointed sword mercilessly attacked the fatal spots on Lingshan's body. Oh, you are even more anxious, Lingshan chuckled. However, this smile was a little dark and cold. He whirled the foldable fan in his hand, and it grew to several times its original size while emitting a glow. Like a shield, it blocked all of the sword attacks that were rushing over. In that case, don't blame me for ruthlessly picking a flower, Lingshan narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed across them. He laughed softly as his body turned into a light figure that rushed forth. The foldable fan pressed gently on the empty air. A sinisterly cold wind directly tore through the air and blasted at Ying Xiao Xiao. A grave expression flashed across Ying Xiao Xiao's eyes when she saw this. The yuan power within her body circulated at its maximum as she stepped forward to face the attack. As the fires of battle burned all around, 2 figures stood at the most central area. The 2 figures faced each other at a distance of less than 10 feet. An extremely shocking fluctuation spread out from both of their bodies. This fluctuation practically surpassed everyone else present. These 2 figures were naturally Chen Gui and Yuan Kang. The surrounding gazes penetrated through the chaotic fights and gathered onto these 2 individuals. Both of them were extremely renowned younger generation members in the Eastern Xian region. One was an imposing and formidable individual who was ranked first on the sect's wanted list, while the other was the leader of the Yuan Gate's 3 little kings. Both of them possessed a monstrous talent and were extremely powerful. It was rumored that they had even reached the initial profound life stage. Forget about the younger generation, their strength allowed them to be ranked amongst the experts even within the entire Eastern Xian region. There was a diverse opinion on which of the 2 was stronger. The 2 of them had once exchanged blows, but they did not fight with their full strength. That outcome could only be considered a draw. Hence, many people were undoubtedly extremely curious about the battle between the 2. They truly wished to find out who amongst these 2 renowned younger generation members was the stronger one. You should not have intervened in the matter between our Yuan Gate and Tao sect. Yuan Kang looked at Chen Gui in front of him. Subsequently, he glanced at the battle that had erupted over this place. However, he was not anxious to fight and spoke with an indifferent tone. "Ha, I can do whatever I want without asking for your opinion." The ghost mask-wearing Chen Gui appeared rather ghastly as he replied with a slight chuckle. Since he was able to become the number 1 individual on the sect's wanted list, he was clearly no ordinary person. Others might be afraid of Yuan Kang, but he was not. Yuan Kang involuntarily shook his head when he heard this. The cold aura in his eyes slowly became colder. Back then, we had a brief and hurried fight, and I really have not gotten enough of it. Since we have met today, let's end it. I will be happy to accompany you, Chen Gui said. Yuan Kang smiled indifferently. He slowly spread out his hands. Immediately, waves of extremely shocking yuan power surged out from his body like floodwater. That vast and mighty power directly turned into a churning wave behind him, as it rumbled in the sky. Chen Gui's eyes flashed when he saw this. Monstrous grayish-black yuan power that was filled with a dark yin aura surged out from his body and transformed into a monstrous cloud. Both of them had reached the initial profound life stage. That vast and mighty yuan power was undoubtedly many times stronger than the other disciples. Trust me, you will regret your decision today. Yuan Kang slowly clenched his hand. An extremely simple black metal sword flashed and appeared. He stared at Chen Gui, as an unusual glow flickered within his eyes. It is perhaps a little too early to say such words. Chen Gui clenched his hand. A black sawtooth blade with ghost patterns appeared in his hand. The large blade was lifted, and pointed towards Yuan Kang in the distance as he faintly smiled. Do it. Allow me to witness just what level the leader of the Yuan Gate's 3 little kings has reached. Yuan Kang stared at Chen Gui. The corners of his mouth slowly lifted to form a sinister arc. In the next instant, an afterimage appeared, while his body turned into a shadow that rushed out. Monstrous Yuan power whistled out in a flash. A shocking face-off had instantly begun. Bang bang. Incomparably berserk Yuan power undulations wildly unfurled across the area. A thick bloody scent mixed with killing intent permeated the sky. At this moment, it appeared as though the sky had been dyed dark red. The spacious rocky terrain was currently in complete chaos. Two torrents clashed together. No unnecessary words were spoken. Yuan power circulated and many martial arts were unleashed. Finally, it was ferociously directed by the many red-eyed individuals at the enemy in front of them. Such a chaotic battle could only be described by one word: desperate. Boom! A densely packed crimson light rose from the battlefield. Ying Huan sat down amidst this cluster of light. Her crimson heavenly phoenix zither was placed over her knees. A pair of delicate and perfect jade-like hands glittered with a faint fluorescence as they landed on the zither. Currently, there were two individuals with cold smiles standing in front of Ying Huan. They were both Yuan Gate Spirit Generals, and had already stepped into the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage. In the short couple of minutes earlier, the both of them had severely injured over a dozen Dao sect disciples. Finish her off. These two Yuan Gate Spirit Generals locked onto Ying Huan, who was in their way. They exchanged glances, before they immediately rushed out simultaneously in an extremely well-coordinated manner. Ying Huan's usually pretty and lively face was filled with frost as she watched these two charge at her with ferocious expressions. Her large eyes stared at the two Yuan Gate Spirit Generals, while an icy blue color surged deep within her eyes. Boom! Delicate fingers strummed the zither strings. Soon after, they suddenly flicked as a melodious zither music sounded out. Two extremely wild and violent crimson sonic waves hurtled out in an instant. They possessed exceptionally shocking speeds as they ferociously slammed onto the two figures that were charging over. Bang! The sonic waves exploded on the duo's bodies. An unbridled and aggressive force directly jolted back the duo until they withdrew miserably. Their eyes were already packed with a solemn expression when they landed on the ground again. The current Ying Huan had also made a breakthrough to the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage a couple of days ago. With the help of the Heavenly Phoenix Zither in her possession, she was already able to stop two Yuan Gate Spirit Generals by herself. The both of you will now pay for harming my Dao sect disciples. A cold aura covered Ying Huan's face. Her eyes were icy cold as she observed those two who had some surprise on their faces. Soon after, those delicate hands suddenly fell, and a monstrous crimson light that mixed with a clear sonic wave resounded. Sharp sonic wave attacks swept towards the two Yuan Gate Spirit Generals from all directions. The Yuan Gate still has 4 Spirit Generals. Qingyi glanced at Ying Huan's battleground in the distance. Soon after, his eyes grimly looked towards 4 other directions. The Yuan Gate disciples at those places possessed an extremely fierce momentum while being led by the other 4 Spirit Generals. I will deal with one of them. The great senior brother of the Flood Hall, Mu Li, stated in a deep voice. He was powerful enough to fight with a 9 Yuan Nirvana stage expert. Although he might not be able to defeat the other party, stopping one should not be a problem. I can also only deal with one of them. Qingyi clenched his teeth. He had similarly successfully endured a Nirvana tribulation during this period of time, and had stepped into the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage. This strength, however, was only equal to 1 Spirit General. After all, he did not have a pure Yuan treasure aiding him. What should we do about the other 2? Mu Li frowned. It was extremely difficult for an ordinary disciple to deal with a 9 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. If they were left to their devices, it would be a tremendous blow towards the morale of the disciples. Qingyi knitted his brows tightly, feeling helpless. The Yuan Gate was stronger than them. All they could do was to try their best in such a situation. Leave the last 2 to me. A clear voice suddenly sounded from the side while Qingyi was feeling helpless. After which, Qingyi saw a slim figure in dark black dress carrying an oversized giant black sickle as she walked out. To his surprise, it was Qing Tan. The Qingyi duo were stunned as they gazed at Qing Tan. I will deal with those 2. Qing Tan looked towards the 2 Yuan Gate Spirit Generals. She gripped the black sickle in her hands and repeated herself. Will you be able to manage? Qingyi could not help but ask. He was a little worried that Qingtan was trying to show off. Should an accident happen? Qingtan glanced at him but did not say anything in response. Soon after, however, Qingyi felt an extremely dark and fiendish black light suddenly surge out from Qingtan's body. The air where the black light spread seemed to even show traces of solidifying. What a dark and terrible Yuan power! Qingyi and Mu Li were shocked as they watched Qingtan, who was wrapped in black light. The latter's Yuan power was a little different from their own. Their Yuan power was a blending of yin and yang, however, Qingtan's Yuan power was an extremely pure yin. I'm heading out. Qingtan did not have any intentions of tarrying. After uttering those words, her lovely figure turned into a flash of black light as it rushed out. Finally, her sickle danced and two unusually dark and chilling black lights swept towards those two Yuan Gate spirit generals. Humph, where has this little girl come from? You are courting death. The two spirit generals immediately laughed in anger when they saw that Qingtan actually dared to attack them. They moved and pounced out like a tiger and leopard. Ferocious and unrestrained palm winds enveloped Qingtan. Swoosh swoosh. Qingtan did not pull back in the face of their attacks. A strange cold glint flickered on the black sickle in her hands, and it suddenly cleaved forward in the next moment. Kai? The sickle struck. It was possible to see the space in front of it being ripped apart as cracks formed. In a flash, the sharp blade appeared above a spirit general's head. It looked as though Qingtan's attack had penetrated through space. Clang! A sword glow shot out from the side and blocked the descending blade. Only then did the spirit general withdraw in panic. However, a piece of meat at the top of his head had already been cleaved off. Immediately, fresh blood began flowing down. Be careful. The sickle in her hands is a little strange. The other spirit general's eyes hardened upon seeing this and cried out in a low voice. Qingtan glanced at the two shocked faces. Without further ado, the black sickle in her hands was swung once again. Sharp wind swept out anew, wrapping the duo within it. Those two spirit generals also did not dare to be the slightest bit slow as they hurriedly focused and fought with their full strength. We should also start. Qingyi and Mu Li sighed in relief when they saw that Qingtan was actually able to stop two spirit generals. They exchanged glances before their bodies flew out and rushed into the battlefield together. Finally, they blocked the last two Yuan Gate spirit generals. Bang bang! Cries of battle surged from the rocky terrain into the sky. At a glance, everyone was red-eyed and bloodthirsty. Occasionally, someone would spit out blood as he was sent flying backwards. They would land outside the battlefield, and no one could tell whether they lived or died. Both parties did not show any mercy when they fought. This was not some sparring competition. Instead, it was a genuine fight between enemies. A large group of 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace disciples stood on a mountain some distance from the rocky area. At this moment, there was a slight change in their expression as they watched the life and death battles before them. Scarlet light continued to be reflected in their eyes. They are all engaging in all-out bloody battles. The enmity between Dao Sect and Yuan Gate is indeed difficult to mediate, a person within the crowd sighed. The Dao Sect and Yuan Gate disciples were like exceptionally unreasonable enemies when they met during the Great Sect competitions. When they fought, it was as though they possessed an irreconcilable vengeance with the other party. The overall strength of the Yuan Gate disciples is after all a little stronger. It is a little unwise for Dao Sect to fight head-on against them in this manner. Wu Kun watched the blood-red battlefield before him. His eyes contained a rather grave expression as he spoke. That's right. Moreover, I wonder where the Dao Sect's Lin Dong has run off to. Could it be that he is really afraid of Yuan Kang and doesn't dare to show himself? A person interrupted. Big brother Lin Dong isn't afraid of Yuan Kang. A person at the side immediately issued a rebuttal the moment the voice sounded. That person tilted his head to take a look, only to see that it was Suruo, who had some fury on her pretty face. Immediately, he laughed dryly and did not dare to speak any further. Suruo's eyes turned towards the battleground below. The fight there was extremely tragic. Deaths and injuries had gradually appeared amongst the Tao sect disciples. The miserable screams that rang out one after another clearly told Suruo that this was no longer some practice sparring. Instead, it was a true battlefield. The most critical battle is still the one between Chen Gui and Yuan Kang. Wu Kun lifted his head and looked towards the sky above. Monstrous yuan power surged wildly from that spot as two ghost-like figures crossed each other at lightning speed. A low thunder-like sound could be heard each time they collided. Senior brother Wu Kun, who has a higher chance of victory? A disciple asked. Wu Kun hesitated a little when he heard this. Only then did he reply, Jingzhu had said that Yuan Kang is an extremely dangerous person. Even she would have difficulty defeating him. Chen Gui might also possess quite a strong reputation, but perhaps Yuan Kang will have a higher chance of victory. Suruo by the side felt her heart tighten slightly when she heard this. She clenched her fist tightly and turned her head. Those eyes of hers were a little anxious as she watched the horizon. She knew that once Chen Gui was defeated at Yuan Kang's hands, the Tao sect would suffer a complete defeat. Big brother Lin Dong, you need to hurry back. Two rays of light rushed past the sky with extreme speed far from the location where the big battle had erupted. The low sonic boom that was created from their high speed attracted many gazes from below. Lin Dong's expression was taunt. He lifted his head and peered into the distance. There seemed to be a bloody scent spreading from that spot. Senior sister Xiao Xiao, all of you must wait for me. Lin Dong clenched his fist tightly. The green dragon wings on his back flapped as his speed once again soared to its limit. Monstrous yuan power surged in the distant sky. Two light figures tore through the sky while accompanied by an extremely fierce and aggressive undulation. Finally, they collided with a loud bang before countless onlooking eyes that were filled with emotion. Boom! A sudden clap of thunder rumbled the moment they collided. Wave after wave of yuan power ripples, which were visible to the naked eyes, spread apart. Two figures shot backwards, their feet stepping on the air, before they finally stabilized themselves. Yuan Kang waved his sleeve, completely eliminating the force within his body. His eyes looked at Chen Gui in the distance as he faintly smiled. It has been a long time since we have exchanged blows, but you have indeed improved quite a bit. Likewise. Chen Gui clenched his hand. Grayish-black yuan power shuttled and gathered on his palm. He glanced indifferently at Yuan Kang before speaking in an indifferent voice. It seems that the Tao sect disciples are no match for our Yuan Gate. Yuan Kang smilingly watched the area below. It was obvious that Yuan Gate had obtained the upper hand in the chaotic battle between the two parties. Chen Gui frowned slightly. He looked to where Qingtan was located. Worry involuntarily flashed across his eyes when he saw that the latter was actually facing two 9-yuan Nirvana stage experts on her own. Although he was clearly aware of some techniques of this junior of his, he would likely be severely scolded by their master if anything were to happen to her here. Looks like I'll have to defeat you first. Chen Gui's eyes flickered as he slowly said. The Yuan Gate's morale would definitely take a huge hit if he defeated Yuan Kang. Are you certain that you can do it? A playful smile surfaced on Yuan Kang's lips as he laughed. Chen Gui did not speak. He merely slowly rolled up his sleeve. Soon after, strange black threads seeped out from under his skin. In a split second, they caused both of his arms to become pitch black as ink. His sharp fingernails were suffused with a black light, while vaguely emitting a strange chill. Yuan Kang's eyes narrowed as he watched this from afar. The cold look in his eyes became even colder. Bang! Pang Tong's expression was ferocious. His Yuan power-covered fist viciously smashed into the chest of a Yuan Gate disciple. The fierce and violent strength directly caused the latter's chest to sink in. That Yuan Gate disciple spat out a mouthful of fresh blood as he feebly collapsed. Senior brother Pang, be careful. A cry suddenly sounded behind him when Pang Tong dealt the fatal blow to the Yuan Gate disciple in front of him with a punch. Quickly after, his heart shivered as his body suddenly shifted to the left. Kai? A sharp sword glow rushed past and directly traced across Pang Tong's arm, forming a deep bloody wound that made his bone visible. Fresh blood immediately gushed out. Swoosh! When the sword glow failed to strike Pang Tong's fatal spot, that Yuan Gate disciple immediately strided forward with a dark look on his face. The sword in his hand was like a viper that intended to strike at Pang Tong's throat. Clang clang! A figure strided forward from behind Pang Tong just as the sword glow was about to shoot out. A huge blade was swung like a windmill and directly blocked the sword glow of that Yuan Gate disciple. Soon after, the blade jolted and that Yuan Gate disciple ended up vomiting blood as he retreated. Senior brother Pang, you alright? Jiang Hao stood back to back with Pang Tong. He wiped off the blood on his face as he asked. I'm fine, thanks. Pang Tong shook his head. He circulated his Yuan power and halted the blood gushing from his arm. His eyes swept around, and his expression sank. The difference in the strength of both parties had begun to show as the bloody battle dragged on. Some of the Dao sect disciples were already beginning to show signs of having Yuan power exhaustion. The situation is not good. Jiang Hao's expression was grim as he commented in a deep voice. Even the more outstanding disciples like them were already injured at this moment. It was likely that the injuries of the other disciples were even more severe. Pang Tong nodded. Yet, both parties had already fought to the point of losing control and there was no way to stop. If Lin Dong still doesn't hurry up and return, it is likely that we will really be unable to endure any longer. Senior sister Xiao Xiao and senior brother Wang Yang can barely stop Ling Zhen and Lei Qian. Jiang Hao said. Stop uttering such nonsense. Junior brother Lin Dong will reach in time. Pang Tong frowned and chided. He was just about to attack again, when his expression suddenly changed. He abruptly lifted his head, and he looked at the highest spot in the sky. An enormous fluctuation was emitted from that spot. That ripple was extremely majestic. Hence, it had immediately attracted countless gazes. After which, all of them saw that Chen Gui's black arms were emitting rays of black light amidst the greyish-black Yuan power in the sky. What a powerful ripple! Chen Gui is planning to deliver a deadly blow. Looks like he intends to quickly defeat his opponent. However, Yuan Kang is no pushover. All eyes were gathered at the highest spot in the sky. They knew that the battle there would determine the victor of this great battle between both parties. Regardless of whether it was Chen Gui or Yuan Kang who was defeated, it would result in a great blow towards the morale of their side. Bang bang! Monstrous black light gathered behind Chen Gui. In the next instant, his eyes abruptly became sharp as he stepped forward while his hand was curled into a claw. Subsequently, it grabbed at Yuan Kang across the distant space. Great darkness, heavenly ghost claw. A deep voice emerged from Chen Gui's mouth at this moment. Soon after, countless piercing ghost-like screeches rang out in the sky. Monstrous greyish-black light agglomerated and actually turned into 100 feet large darkness ghost claw. A sinister wind blew from this ghost claw. Bang! The darkness ghost claw directly penetrated through the empty space. It contained a frighteningly dark and formidable fluctuation as it viciously clawed at Yuan Kang. Ha ha, is this the martial art that you, Chen Gui, are most proud of? Just as well, today I shall completely break this martial art of yours in front of everyone. Yuan Kang watched the arriving ghost claw that was accompanied by a terrifying fluctuation. He did not dodge, but instead laughed heartily. At the same time, monstrous Yuan power whistled like a giant wave behind him. Yuan God Codex, Heavenly Yuan Hand. Yuan Kang extended his hand and suddenly clenched it as it fell while laughing loudly. Rumble. An unusually vast and mighty Yuan power whistled out from behind him. It turned into a titanic Yuan power hand that was hundreds of feet large before countless stunned eyes. A frightening force that could shake the world seemed to be gathered on that titanic hand. Bang! The moment the titanic Yuan power hand, which blotted out the sun, was formed, it viciously slapped out. In the next instant, it violently collided with the darkness ghost claw in front of numerous eyes. Bang bang bang! A thunderous noise was frantically echoed at the moment of impact. The ghost claw and titanic hand continued to emit berserk undulations in the sky in an attempt to destroy the other party. At this moment, however, it was clear that the strength of both parties were similar. Hence, regardless of how wild and violent the fluctuation was, neither of the attacks could gain an obvious advantage. A draw, everyone involuntarily muttered as they watched the stalemate in the sky. In the sky, Yuan Kang seemed to have heard the numerous mutters. Immediately, a sneer flashed in his eyes. The strange smile on his lips grew increasingly wider. Chen Gui, I have said that you will regret it. Yuan Kang looked at Chen Gui from afar. He laughed softly and both of his hands rapidly formed an unusual set of seals. Following the transformation of his hand seals, a mysterious symbol faintly appeared on Yuan Kang's forehead. Spirit emblem? Chen Gui immediately noticed the symbol on Yuan Kang's forehead. Immediately, his pupils suddenly shrunk as a shaken expression surfaced on his face. He never imagined that this Yuan Kang had actually obtained a spirit emblem. Have you discovered it? Yuan Kang gazed at the drastic change in Chen Gui's expression. The strange smile of his now had an additional ferocity within it. Immediately, the symbol on his forehead suddenly flickered, while Yuan Kang's aura abruptly soared the moment it did so. Bang bang! As Yuan Kang's aura soared, the titanic Yuan power hand immediately became stronger. Its size swelled and it tightly grabbed the darkness ghost claw. Frightening strength was unleashed, and cracks immediately surfaced on the darkness ghost claw. Shatter! Yuan Kang suddenly cried out coldly. Soon after, everyone could hear a clear sound ring in the air. The darkness ghost claw was forcibly crushed. Ugh! Chen Gui emitted a muffled moan from his throat when the darkness ghost claw broke. A pale look flashed across his face. I have given you a choice to live, but you refuse to take it. Do not blame me for being merciless. Ferociousness flashed across Yuan Kang's eyes after he gained the upper hand in the exchange. He took a step forward and the titanic Yuan power hand directly tore through space and viciously swatted at Chen Gui. Its shadow blocked all of Chen Gui's retreat paths in an instant. After which, the titanic hand mercilessly smashed into his body in front of countless stunned eyes. Bang! A low and deep sound caused everyone's heart to tremble violently. A black light shot down from the sky, and in the end, it crashed into the ground. The terrifying force directly caused an enormous deep pit to be formed on the ground. Chen Gui's expression was deathly pale as he lay within the pit. His mask had cracked apart, revealing his pale face. Blood also flowed from his body. Clearly, his injuries were not light. Yuan Kang's face was sinisterly cold as he watched Chen Gui being injured by his strike. With a sinister laugh, a black metal sword appeared as he clenched his hand. Subsequently, a sharp sword glow shot towards Chen Gui's head. It was obvious that he intended to kill the latter. Boom! However, zither music suddenly appeared when this sword glow was still 100 feet from Chen Gui. At the same time, a crimson sonic wave rushed over from the distance and blocked the sword glow. Oh! Yuan Kang's eyes became cold when he saw this sudden hindrance. He shifted his gaze, only to see a crimson glow rising from a short distance away. A young lady holding a crimson zither was icily meeting his gaze. 2 Yuan Gate spirit generals had already collapsed weakly on the ground below. Clearly, their combined force had been defeated by Ying Huanhuan, who was holding the heavenly phoenix zither. Having advanced to the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage, Ying Huanhuan was clearly far more powerful than before. Pure Yuan treasure. Yuan Kang glanced at the heavenly phoenix zither in Ying Huanhuan's hands. Soon after, he sneered, "Do you think that you can fight with me by relying on that item?" Ying Huanhuan rose into the sky. She gazed at the seriously injured Chen Gui, and clenched her pearly white teeth. An icy blue luster flashed deep within her large eyes. Finally, she sat down in the sky. From the looks of it, she intended to stop Yuan Kang. Does the Dao sect really has no one else? Even a little girl has to step up. Yuan Kang involuntarily shook his head and ridiculed when he saw this scene. There's also myself. Yuan Kang's voice had just sounded when an icy cold shout suddenly rang out. Soon after, everyone watched a young lady in black with a black sickle in her hands rush over. After which, she appeared beside Ying Huan. That slender figure was Qingtan, who had also defeated the other two spirit generals. The two ladies might be young, but the battle achievements that they had obtained were quite extraordinary. Another pure Yuan treasure. Yuan Kang's eyes were slightly icy as he looked at Qingtan. His pupils shrunk slightly as they swept over the black sickle in her hand. Across the entire area, countless gazes watched this scene in astonishment. They clearly did not expect that the ones who had stepped forward to stop Yuan Kang would actually be these two beautiful young ladies. This video will end here.